Now, a Whnt News 19 Valley Votes 2010 special report, brought to you by First Family Mortgage.
And good evening. Breaking news in the race for governor here in the state of Alabama. Robert Bentley has been declared the winner by Associated Press.
The AP made that declaration when he had about 60% of the vote over his Democratic opponent, Ron Sparks. That number keeps changing as those numbers are coming in. We are expecting Dr. Bentley to make his acceptance speech at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa at 10 o'clock tonight.
Of course, right now, let's check in with Ron Sparks' campaign down in Montgomery. Whnt News 19's Clarissa Stevens live in Montgomery with the Ron Sparks campaign. Clarissa.
Well, Jerry and Elise, the Sparks campaign disagrees with the fact that the Associated Press has declared Dr. Robert Bentley the winner so early. They feel like there are too many uncounted Sparks votes, and they think they're going to wait it out. They think that they still have a chance in this race. They say that they think they have votes, particularly in Birmingham and the South Alabama area, in the Wiregrass, Dothan, that area. They feel like that it really, honestly, quite frankly, that it really wasn't the right move to make, and that it wasn't really the right call, but we shall see as the night goes on. Now, Ron Sparks hasn't come down to address the crowd yet so far this evening. He's been watching the results in a private room. We haven't really been given a time frame of exactly when he's going to come down and address his supporters. They're just telling us right now that they're going to wait and see. Now, it's kind of been a mellow atmosphere for the greater part of the evening. Just recently, in the last couple of minutes, there's been a little bit more excitement in the room, a little more energy, but kind of a nervous anticipation throughout most of the evening. Now, during the campaign, Sparks has really tried to differentiate himself from his Republican opponent, mostly when it comes to gaming and the state lottery. He wants to set up a gaming commission to tax and regulate gaming facilities, and he also wants to set up a statewide lottery with that money going towards education funding. He feels that Alabama students should be able to choose a public university or two-year college or a technical program if they want to go to school. He's been the ag commissioner since 2003, re-elected in 2006, and he's hoping to win this election tonight. But so far, AP declaring Dr. Bentley the winner, but they say they're going to wait it out. Jerry, Elise?
All right, Clarissa, thank you very much. And I want to point out that not long after the Associated Press declared Dr. Bentley the winner, the Republicans Governors Association actually sent out a news release congratulating the governor-elect. RGA Chairman Haley Barber saying, in quote, Robert Bentley's conservative values and ideas allowed him to carry Alabama. Robert Bentley knows how to balance a budget, keep taxes low, and he fought against President Obama's health care takeover. Those are winning issues anywhere, end of quote. But it sounds to me like Ron Sparks is sitting back right now saying, let's not get the cart before the horse.
Absolutely. Whnt News 19's Carson Clark is in Tuscaloosa. We're going to be joining him in just a moment. But before we do, I'd like to bring in Dr. Jess Brown, who is our political analyst here. And Dr. Brown, are you surprised by how early they called this race?
No, not really. I think everybody expected Dr. Bentley would win, and by a fairly hefty margin. And I would imagine AP has looked at selected precincts around the state, and they pretty much see the writing on the wall. I had talked to several people in recent days who thought Dr. Bentley would receive, if not 60%, a little bit less than 60% of the vote.
26% of the vote counted right now. Bentley has a 13,000 vote lead, and the Sparks campaign's talking about waiting on Birmingham. I think it might be reasonable to expect for them to let Birmingham and Jefferson County come in before they see if they're going to concede or not.
If I had invested the kind of time and money and effort and energy that they've invested, I would not throw in the towel at this point either. But AP has been rather careful about these things, especially since the election night of 2000. And I would imagine they have their ducks in a row.
Pretty much on the exit polling, that sort of thing. You're absolutely right. Because of that moment with what happened in the presidential race, pretty much this whole thing got defined and people bore down on absolutely how these exit polls work. Let me ask you this, and this is a theme we're going to touch on throughout the night too. A Republican rout in this state. From what you said a while ago, there is no Democrat winning in a statewide race at this point. Is that still correct?
We're having a seesaw battle between Mrs. Ivey and Lieutenant Governor Folsom, but otherwise it appears that the Democrats will lose every statewide race. Now that's based on, in some races, very limited returns. Right. But at the present time, it could well be an entire sweep as far as the statewide races go for the Republicans.
And one of the things, returns on some of these are coming in a little slow. They are trickling in at some point. One of the things, too, this, and correct me if I'm wrong, This governor's race, gubernatorial race, strangely low-key, got about 30 seconds left. Was this just because from the get-go, Bentley seemed like he had this thing won? If everything continues along this pace.
From the way I see it, there was no need to have a general election campaign because neither candidate changed their message. We could have had this election Labor Day weekend, and we would have had pretty much the same outcome as far as I can see. Each candidate stayed with the messages they had in the primary. There were really no differences, and certainly with the Sparks message being oriented to gambling and with the controversy associated with gambling and the indictments, that pretty much was the icing on the cake for the Sparks campaign.
Whnt News 19's political analyst Dr. Jess Bentley in with us tonight. Will be all night. Jerry Leeds, let's go back to you for the latest on what's going on in the Valley votes.
Well, Dr. Jess Brown. Now, Dr. Bentley's the one who looks like it's going to be, that's okay.
You know, another huge race that we've been keeping our eye on is the 5th District congressional race. And just take a look at these numbers at this point, with about 29% of precincts reporting. Mo Brooks has a sizable lead over Steve Raby with 55% of the vote.
Right now, we're going to go out to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, the Davidson Center out there, where WHNT News 19's Nick Banaszak is standing by live with Mo Brooks. And are they ready to party out there just yet? Nick?
Well, Jerry, I can tell you within the last few minutes, the atmosphere has gotten much more livelier. We've seen that lead expand. And speaking of the lead and this race, here's the man of the moment, Mo Brooks, Republican nominee, and getting closer and closer to a possible victory here. Right now, I know a lot of folks are interested in the numbers. Tell us where we are in this race.
Well, right now it appears that we've got a 59-41 lead. There are still a lot of boxes to come out, but at this point it's very, very, very promising. It looks like we're going to become the first Republican elected in the Tennessee Valley to the United States Congress since Reconstruction more than 130 years ago. And that's not really about me. It's about the people who have looked at the direction our nation is going and decided that we need to try a different tack in order to save us from the kinds of challenges that we face.
There's talk about getting to this point here. I know it's obviously been a more than a year-long effort for you getting to this point tonight. It looks like victory may be imminent. Describe the journey from beginning to end and what this is like for you right now.
Well, as with any task, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of preparation, but more than anything else in a campaign mode, it takes a lot of volunteers. And we were just overwhelmed by the number of people who shared our concern for the path America was on, saw that it was a dead-end path, saw that it was a path that we could not afford as a nation to embark on, and who have all together contributed time, they've contributed money to make this a successful endeavor. I'm just a vehicle in this process, a messenger, so to speak. It's all the volunteers who have participated in our democracy, our process, that has enabled this to be a good night.
Obviously, the numbers are still coming in here, but have you talked with anybody from the Raby camp, or maybe do you expect to talk to anybody soon, given how these numbers continue to play out?
Well, I don't have my cell phone. My campaign staff has taken it from me, but we anticipate to hear from Steve Raby and his camp before long. Again, we need to get closer to the end, final numbers, before either one of us is prepared to take an official position.
And obviously your supporters here have been watching the events here nationally on the big screen. Talk about just the overall night Republicans are having here. It seemed to be doing very well nationally. It's carried over into this race as well. Surprised by that, or did you expect it? Talk about just what you're seeing here.
Not at all surprised. The people have made their voice heard. We have had President Barack Obama, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Majority Harry Reid take us on a radical path that the people of America did not want to go on. And this is the people's way of expressing their dissatisfaction with an unemployment rate that has more than doubled since House Speaker Nancy Pelosi became House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And so the people have every right to demand policies that work. Hopefully, with this change, we'll be able to implement policies that will work. And I'm confident we can do so if the other side will compromise and work with us and work with the principles that made America a great nation. If they will do that, America will be fine.
Commissioner Brooks, we thank you for your time. Of course, we'll be hearing from you
Nick.
in the 10 o'clock hour. Thanks again. And guys, as you heard, those numbers keep rolling in here. It looks more and more like Mo Brooks is going to pull this off, but we will wait for final confirmation on that. For now, we're live at the Space and Rocket Center. Nick Banaszak, WHNT News 19.
All right, Nick, thank you very much. Sounds like Mo Brooks not quite confident enough to call a victory yet, but sounds like he's confident that he's going to be able to pull this one out tonight.
It sounds like it, and it also sounds like Steve Raby has an idea that he will not be able to, because we've gotten word that his concession speech may be at about 9:30 tonight. We're still waiting to hear on that. Let's check in for sure with WHNT News 19 Steve Johnson live at the downtown Holiday Inn in Huntsville with Steve Raby's campaign. Steve?
All right, Elise, and of course the Raby campaign is hearing the same numbers that the Mo Brooks campaign is hearing, and you know, some faces have gotten a little longer around here over the last hour or so. Steve Raby is coming down at 9:30. They don't want to say concession, but he is going to address the crowd here at the Holiday Inn in downtown Huntsville, and it sounds like it's going to be a concession speech. I would imagine before he does that, he'll actually talk to Mo Brooks. I think that's normally how it works. But right now we're hearing that definitely Steve Raby will be down here at 9:30, and of course I would imagine we'll be carrying that live, whatever Steve Raby says to this crowd. Of course, there's still some hope. There are guys on laptops and watching the returns on WHNT News 19 back here. In fact, we went up to Steve Raby's hotel room where he, family, friends, and supporters were actually watching WHNT News 19 as the early returns were coming in. And at that point, they were pretty hopeful. I talked to several people in the campaign, and they thought, well, if this happens or that happens, we have a chance to win this thing. But then they start saying, well, even in some of the places where they thought they would do quite well, they only had like a 100-vote lead. So it just hasn't gone according to the plan they had. And right now, it appears that Steve Raby is going to concede. Can't say that yet, but he is coming down here at 9:30 to address the people in this room, his friends, family, and supporters. Guys.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. And of course, we will be checking back in with Steve if indeed Steve Raby does come down and address his supporters and goes ahead and concedes. But once again, he's not quite saying that it's going to be a concession speech.
Right. Of course, the big race of the night we're keeping an eye on as well. The governor's race for Robert Bentley was declared the winner a little while ago. Let's check in with WHNT News 19's Carson Clark live in Tuscaloosa at the Bentley campaign. Carson?
Well, that's right, Elise. We're actually here inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. People here very happy. They got the word about 15 minutes after 8 tonight that the Associated Press had declared Dr. Bentley the winner, that he will be the 53rd governor of Alabama, taking office in January. But people here very excited. They've played Sweet Home Alabama a couple of times, so that always gets the crowd fired up. But I'll tell you something that we noticed was the amount of security that has now come into the building. As if, I guess because he is the governor-elect, the Alabama State Troopers, the ABI, have come in here to provide extra security for Dr. Bentley. We don't know about the phone calls, whether or not Sparks has called Bentley, Bentley called Sparks or not. We thought Bentley was going to speak around 9 o'clock tonight, but we understand the reason why is that Dr. Bentley feels like this is going to be a statewide sweep for the Republicans, so he wants to wait until all of those races are in place and then come out around 10 o'clock tonight to just make one big announcement that what they're hoping will be that the Republicans have taken the entire state, or the statewide races tonight. So that's the latest here. We're waiting for Dr. Bentley to come out around 10 o'clock tonight. And I'll tell you what, Jerry and Elise, it seems like it's been a long time since that night back in February when we had 8 different candidates at our forum out at the Alpha Hudson Institute there in Huntsville, and now we're down to 1 candidate.
There were 8. There were 2 on the ballot today, and there will be 1 winner tomorrow.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people, when this all first started, never would have imagined. I know there are a few of you that imagined, but I would say the majority never thought it would be these 2 candidates that it came down to when we were thinking about who might even enter the race that long ago.
I think a lot of people have been surprised the way things have gone. Let's take a look right now at some of the other races across the state of Alabama. This, the U.S. Senate seat that Republican Richard Shelby currently holds. There you see Richard Shelby being declared the winner with 59% of the vote.
Shelby was considered the favorite in this. Of course, he's held that seat for a long time. In a state Senate race, District 2, Bill Holtzclaw with 70% of the vote over Tom Butler with 30%.
Let's take another look at one of the other state Senate races here in North Alabama. This one pitting Paul Sanford, the incumbent, Republican incumbent, over Jeff Enfinger, who has served in Montgomery before. Right now, Paul Sanford with a commanding lead, 64% of the vote. Jeff Enfinger with 36%.
And in another race, State Senate District 8, Shadrack McGill with 52% of the vote over Lowell Barron, 48% of the vote. Pretty close race with 5% of the precincts reporting right now.
course, our Valley Votes election coverage continues in a moment.
But first, let's take a look at some important races in the Shoals tonight.